Hi, this is Robert Bevan, and welcome to a two-part Best Practice CD. During this presentation, you're going to hear me talk about, firstly, in Part A, Best Practice Prospecting, PL88, and then in Part B, Best Practice Listing, PL89. The first part has 11 sections, and tracks 1 through 11 of this CD correspond with table of contents 1 to 11 of your workbook PL88. Part B, the Best Practice Listing PL89, starts at track 13 and the corresponding track numbers are listed in the table of contents page 1 of the Best Practice Listing workbook. We're going to talk about Best Practice Prospecting. You should have in front of you with a pen a 27-page workbook, product number PL88. If you have the workbook in front of you, I'd like you first of all to turn to page number 1. Page 1 is the table of contents, and it sets out the 10 activities we're going to take you through during this CD. You will see that there are 11 activities on the table of contents, the 11th being the implementation schedule. Before we start, let's go to page 27 and have a look at that implementation schedule. Page 27 is the most important page in the workbook. It's the one that enables you to take action as a result of running through these various prospecting activities. I strongly recommend that after hearing this CD, that within 24 hours you revisit page 27, the implementation schedule, run through each of the 10 activities and decide, first of all, if you're going to do anything about that particular activity, and then when it's going to be introduced, and finally, who you're going to appoint to introduce it. Let's have a look at the first of the 10 activities on page number 2, monitoring performance. It's essential that after every market appraisal, somebody in the office telephones the person for whom you conducted the appraisal and finds out what it was that caused them to invite you to do the appraisal. On page number 2, there's a sample script. A couple of very important points which are not noted on the page. This research is done over the telephone. It's done within 24 hours of the appraisal, and it's conducted by a third party, not by the business owner, not by the sales manager, not by the property consultant, but by a third party. Often it can be the husband or the wife of somebody that works in the office who has a couple of hours, 1, 2, 3 nights a week. Generally, they're paid an hourly rate of something like $20 to $23 per hour to carry out this very simple task. But the results are just so important. When you know why people asked you to conduct an appraisal, the results become your prospecting activity. So if you're getting all of your prospecting because the person received a prospecting phone call from you, that's what you do more of. Or if it was because of presence of your for sale boards or you received a prospecting flyer, it lets you know the prospecting that's working for you today in your office. On the bottom of page number 2, 2 more very important points. Print the results. These results are not a secret. Put them up on the sales board and then redesign your prospecting to reflect the results obtained from your prospecting research. Key points here: use the telephone within 24 hours, third party, 1, 2, 3 nights a week, ringing up everybody for whom you've conducted an appraisal. Why the telephone? Sure, I know many offices send out a survey form at the end of the process when properties have been settled. When you send out a survey form, it's great, it's better than doing nothing. But if you do it extremely well, you will average a 30% response rate, which is good. The problem is only happy people respond to survey forms. So if you really want to know what prospecting activities are working for you, get somebody to ring that appraisal prospect within 24 hours. Activity number 2, the foundation system. One of the things that best practice businesses have in common is that notwithstanding the state of the market, interest rates are up or down, it's a buyer's market, it's a seller's market, they're busy, they're not busy, they always prospect. Prospecting is conducted 4-5 days a week, every day of the year. And those agencies have a foundation system. On page number 3, there's an example of a foundation system, but that's all it is. You will determine what's working for you today in your office, but it's important that that prospecting is carried out. The example that I give you on page 3 is the speak to 10, deliver 100. It states that every time you list a property for sale, sell a property, conduct an open house, or conduct an auction, the sales agent knocks on the door of the 10 closest neighbours and says, "Hi, my name is Robert Bevan from Best Practice Real Estate. As a courtesy to you as a close neighbour, I wanted to advise you that," and then they will go on and talk about they've just listed, just sold, about to conduct an open home or an auction. And then they will always leave a letter, card, an invitational flyer or a brochure. Then the next 100 neighbours will get a copy of that invitation or flyer left under the front door or in the letterbox. Rhetorical question. If you, during your entire career, had spoken to 10 and delivered 100 on every listing, every sale, every open house and every auction, would you be getting more unsolicited calls right now? The answer is yes, but have a foundation system. Activity number 3, open home prospecting. In the top left-hand corner of page number 4, there is a very important fact. In Australia and New Zealand, 80% of people who visit a residential dwelling which is open for inspection become A-class vendors or A-class purchasers within 7 weeks of the inspection. Now, we define what A-class is for you on that particular page. The key thing to take home here is that when people are just starting to think of buying or selling, if there's a property that's open for inspection across the street or down the road, chances are they're just going to have a sticky beak, have a look. We know that on average it's going to take them 7 weeks before they make the decision to really do something about it. But this is the initial research. And when you approach them and ask, "Are you thinking of selling or buying?" they say no. Correctly, sales agents put this person into that category, which is not an A-class vendor or purchaser, and they follow up the people who are thinking of making an offer. The business supporting the sales team will take all of the people who visit an open home and contact every potential seller and purchaser as often as it takes to feel confident that the agency will be their first choice agent when they decide to list or purchase during that crucial 7-week period. So the key point here is that the sales agent looks after the hot prospects, but we know that 80% of the people that come through an open home are likely to be A-class buyers or sellers, prospects, within the 7 weeks. On page number 4, there is a sample form of how to make sure you collect the right data and build your database to enable you to contact those people who visit your open homes. Activity number 4. In a best practice agency, nothing is left to chance. Here's a challenge for you. Get somebody to ring your agency as a potential seller. Just ring up and say, "Hi, my name is, I'm thinking of selling. Can I speak to a sales agent, please?" And you will probably be amazed at the response. Often it will be, unfortunately, "Oh, just a moment, I'll see if we've got a salesperson in. Is Margaret in? Just a moment, please," and then you put on hold. They come back to you, "I'm sorry, Margaret's not available at the moment. I think, yes, Trevor, I'm going to put you through to Trevor." Trevor answers the phone. "Hello, this is Trevor. Can I help you?" "I'm thinking of selling a property." "Oh, okay, just a moment now. I just want to find a pen and a piece of paper." "Oh, okay. What's your name?" "Okay, and your address, please?" "Right. And you're thinking of selling." "Well, I'd love to come and have a look at it. Now, I'm flat out this afternoon." And everything that happens from the first telephone answer is ad hoc. Nothing is left to chance in a best practice business. On page number 5, there is a template pre-appraisal research and script. If you have a look particularly at questions 12, 13 and 14, what do you intend doing when you sell here? What caused you to invite our agency to provide you with a market appraisal? Or finally, and most importantly, you ask, "I am going to be conducting a computer search and bringing some documentation with me." To enable me to conduct that search and bring the applicable documentation, would you mind telling me into what price range you think your property will sell? And they'll give you a range between low and high. But there are 14 questions which are asked. They're printed, they're on the computer screen, ready to go as soon as somebody rings up and says, I'm thinking of selling. Nothing is left to chance. Activity number 5, the agency's website. It is both a prospecting and listing tool. We now know without any shadow of a doubt that when a prospective seller or buyer visits a real estate agent's website, they look at the listings that are available for sale. There are 7 things Australasian property consumers want on the agent's website, that prospecting listing tool. Number 1 is speed. Home page should download within 10 seconds, subsequent pages within 20 seconds. They're time poor, and if they don't get the home page up and available within 10 seconds, they move to the next agent. Virtual tours. Today's consumer goes onto the internet because they want information, and they want information quickly, and they believe that a virtual tour does that for them. Plenty of photographs, they love photos. Number 4 is floor plans. They're now demanding floor plans. Number 5, an interesting one, new listings. If you happen to have a very large inventory of properties available for sale, you need to recognise that prospective buyers will go to your website, and prospective sellers, and look at those listings every day of the week, or at least 6 days of the week. If you've got a very large listings inventory, it takes a long time for them to go through. They appreciate an icon on the front page, on the home page of your website, which says new listings, and they can go straight to those properties that you've listed for sale over the last 5 or 10 days. The online appraisal is number 6. They do like that, and why do business with us? But the website is a very important prospecting tool. Activity number 6, farming areas. Now, by no means do the majority of Australasian agencies have farming areas for their property consultants. But where they do, one of the questions that is often asked is how many properties should be in a farming area for a residential salesperson? It's amazing how many people have come up with the same answer, whether it's 2,000, 6,000, 1,000. But only top 10% businesses that have researched this particular activity know that there has to be a scientific method of working out how many properties you should allocate to a salesperson. It's a very simple process. It's shown in detail on page number 6, but it's determined by the turnover rate of the area. Clearly, if properties in an area only sell once every 20 years, a property consultant is going to need a lot more of those properties to farm than an area where the average turnover is every 3 years. So there needs to be a scientific approach to calculating farming areas, and the simple equation is set out for you on page number 6. Activity number 7, the pre-listing kit. It's a very, very important part of prospecting. It has 6 areas which top 10% sales managers focus upon. First of all, like any document, any part of the business, it needs to have an aim. The most common is something like to keep the agency top of mind with local residential property consumers. So if you're thinking about varying, adding to, or deleting something from your current pre-listing kit, make sure that it meets the aim. Quality is the second area. Quality is important in terms that you should have all the copy written and proofed by a qualified copywriter. Poor grammar really does sell your office in an unflattering way. Only use professional graphic design and graphs and charts, etc. And make it a bound document with no loose pages or inserts. The title and cover, give it some thought. Words such as thinking of selling your home work well for most people. The content. On page number 7, there's a sample of 20 of the most common contents featured in top 10% pre-listing kits. If you have a quick look through that, some of those areas that you might find of interest are 15 questions to ask your sales agent. So if somebody's sitting in a coffee shop or somebody's waiting for their car to be washed and they pick this document up, they need to be able to read something that's of interest. So 15 questions to ask your sales agent, there's a sample of that on page number 8. Or why choose your agency, there's a sample of that on page number 9. But content is very, very important. The fifth of the 6 activities which should be focused upon when re-examining your pre-listing kit is distribution. Leave it at every market appraisal, that's obvious. It's a leave behind for those prospects, but distribute it within your core business area to every coffee shop, car wash, conveyancer, lawyer, banker, and the list goes on and is printed for you on page number 8. But if you're going to produce a pre-listing kit, know how many copies you wish to produce and where those copies will be delivered. And finally, point number 6, review your pre-listing kit on a regular basis. It should be reprinted and dated every quarter and subjected to a thorough content and format revision every 12 months. Activity number 8, your database. Far too many inexperienced salespeople just place their prospects as prospective vendors or prospective purchasers, in this case, prospective vendors, into the database as just that. In a top 10% business, all vendors are classified. There are sample definitions for you on page number 10, but if you look at an A-class vendor as perhaps somebody who has listed their property for sale exclusively within 10% of your opinion of value, they're an A-class vendor. Contrast that with a D-class vendor. D is a vendor who has not yet listed their property for sale but intends to do so within the next 3 to 12 months. Now, the D-class vendor is very, very important. They're part of the funnel which will provide you with A-class vendors in 9-12 months' time. And you need to have each of your vendors categorised accordingly, because when you're contacting your vendors, the A-class, you'll be talking to them 5 or 6 days a week, whereas the D-class, you contact them perhaps every 28 days. So make use of your database, work on it consistently. Consistently generally means with prospecting 4 or 5 days a week, and aim to move your D-classes into A's and to keep working that prospecting funnel. Activity number 9, prospecting via email. As technology changes and the demands of our prospects change, it's important to see what's working best in prospecting using email. On page number 11, there are 7 suggestions that are made for you to obtain maximum benefits from email prospecting. Personalise your from line by including the name of the consultant and the agency. Asking for help works well provided the prospect knows who you are. Number 3 is personalise the greeting. Number 4, ask for assistance rather than providing unsolicited information. Provide specifics. Number 6, make it easy for the prospect to take action. And number 7, personalise your signature with the name of the consultant and the agency. Now on page 11, there is a sample of the wrong way for prospecting activity to be carried out using email and the right way for that to happen. If I take you through very quickly the right way, so it's from Jan Brown of Best Practice Real Estate. The subject is, can you help me? The salutation is, Dear Margaret or Bill. Number 4, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I thought you could point me in the right direction. Here at Best Practice Real Estate, we have a number of genuine buyers looking to purchase a brief and provide a description. For example, 4-bedroom home within 1.5 kilometres of the railway station. Point number 6, should you know of anyone thinking of selling, please either forward this email to them or reply to this email with your contact details. Thank you, Jan Brown, Best Practice Real Estate. So some very good points on email prospecting are listed on page number 11 for you. That takes us to activity number 10, where I provide you with 16 sample prospecting activities. They run from page 12 to 26. Each of the 16 sample prospecting activities are self-explanatory. I don't intend to go through them one by one and read them to you. What I would like to point out, if you go to page number 12, and I use the first one as an example, it's prospecting for expired listings. Each one of these prospecting activities can be presented as a flyer, as a marketing activity for your local newspaper, something to go onto your website, into your newsletter, as a direct mail piece or a letterbox drop. And on page 11 you will see sample 1 presents the prospecting activity as a flyer. Underneath it, as sample number 2, we turn the same message into a prospecting telephone call. Hi, my name is Robert Bevan from Best Practice Real Estate. I wanted to take up no more than 2 minutes of your time regarding the sale of your home. Is now a good time, or would you prefer me to call back? Very important that you tell them that you're only going to be on the phone for 2 minutes. Here at Best Practice Real Estate, we are proud of the fact that we have been able to help local homeowners who have been told their home is too expensive or too cheap, too old or too new, overcapitalised or in poor condition, too big or too small, or too near a busy road. Now remember, for this particular prospecting activity, you're targeting expired listings. Would you like to receive our complimentary, no obligation recommendations regarding your home? When would be a convenient time to call? So that's an example of how you can take prospecting for expired listings and present it in terms of a flyer or as a prospecting call. On page number 13, we examine the local home unit specialist. Now, this can be used not just as a home unit specialist, you can be a townhouse specialist, a two-storey dwelling specialist, a land or section specialist. Turn it into whatever you like, but become a specialist in that particular area. 4 key components. Have a tagline, so call yourself the name of the street, apartment specialist, or the local area home unit specialist. Create a trades booklet in which you will list 12 of the most needed apartment tradespeople, such as a cleaner, electrician, plumber, etc., etc. You might like to include some professionals in there, lawyers, bankers, for the home unit owner to use as a reference point. Number 3, the database. Build your database of local home unit owners. Start by contacting home unit owners closest to your office, then move outwards. And number 4, door knock. So this is how you use this activity to prospect. Here at Best Practice Real Estate, we have developed a professional relationship with 12 long-standing, well-referenced local tradespeople who will provide excellent service to local home unit owners. We're offering this booklet with our compliments to you as a valued local home unit owner. To obtain your copy, now if you're there, you're able to give it to them, collect their information and put them into your database. Or you can write to them, or you can telephone them. But create a tagline, create a trades booklet, build your database, and door knock. Page 14 gives you examples of how you can talk about the genuine purchases you have waiting. To the residents of the street in your area, we are pleased to advise that the owners of a 4-bedroom home in James Street were recently successful in having us sell their delightful home for them. The marketing program has left us with a number of purchasers who are keen to buy in this area. And then you will give specifics, actual specifics, without breaching confidentiality laws, specifics of those who are interested. On page 14, that script, that notice, that letter is turned around so that you can use it to ring people. An important point here, question number 7 in example B on page 14. Do you know of anyone in the area who is thinking of selling at present, or who might want an obligation-free opinion of the value of their home? So it's important you don't ask the question, do you want to sell? You ask the question, do you know of anybody who wants to sell or who might be interested in a market opinion? That way, if they're not interested, they might want to take the information to pass on to a son, to mum, to a brother, or a friend. On page 15, selling your marketing and negotiation expertise. In research we've done with happy vendors, when we ask the question, why do you believe you got a good price? When we drilled down into what they considered the skills of the agent to be, which got them that good price, two things were paramount: the marketing skill of the agent and the negotiation skill of the agent. So there on page 15, there's a sample that you can take and rewrite to suit you, your agency, and your local conditions to promote your marketing and negotiation expertise. On page 16, we sell homes other agents can't. This is a variation on the expired listing promotion. And again, there is a very clear example of how you can target those people who have had their property for sale for some time and haven't been able to make a sale. Page 17, list with us, we've got the buyers. Samples there for you to rewrite either or both of the flyers to suit your agency and marketplace. Remember, get those flyers professionally printed, use a graphic artist, and then distribute them via your window displays, website, newsletter, display advertising, homes books and letterbox, but always ensure that you comply with all governing awards, legislation, regulation and codes of conduct. There are plenty of ideas to use to go prospecting, but remember that first point that we dealt with. Find out what's working for you today and keep focusing your prospecting in that area. On page 18, vendors' needs. Most real estate agents make a list of the services they provide to prospective clients and then sell those services in an attempt to obtain business. Here at Best Practice Real Estate, we do the reverse. We ask our clients what they want, then we deliver those services. There are 8 services which past happy clients cite as essential. And on page 18, we give you examples of both the promotional prospecting document and 8 services which vendors demand. Have a look at page 18 and see if you can use this in your prospecting armoury. On page 19, highest price, shortest time, 20 questions. Here at Best Practice Real Estate, we have been able to place a smile on the face of many local home sellers. We have found that by being able to answer the 20 questions listed over leaf, we have been able to help them sell their property for the highest possible price in the shortest possible time. And on page 19, you've got the questions for you to be able to answer and to encourage market appraisal activity. On page 20, there's a sample dealing with trust, honesty and truth. We know that today that people are more and more looking for people to do business with who have a reputation for truth, honesty and trust. On page number 20, there's a variation of a theme whereby you tell the prospects about the properties that you've sold. The sample given there states, "We have recently sold the properties which appear over leaf and thought that as a local resident you might be interested in the reasons property owners selected us to market these homes for sale." And then there are 4 testimonials, but each of them use the word truth or honest or trust. So if you're going to tell people that you're successful, tell them also that they can trust you. We sell homes for more money. Most prospective sellers are not interested that you might dominate the market, but they are interested that you sell homes for more money. On page number 21, there are some samples of how to take advantage of that fact. A key point in the sample given is the sentence, "We do not treat homes as products straight off the factory assembly line. Each home is unique. Our aim is to single out the unique buyer that will pay the highest possible price for your home," remembering that all of these samples can be turned into a telephone script. On page 22, a variation of an old theme, the free appraisal. In the middle of the sample given are the words, "We assume that those taking up our offer will not be thinking of selling, but would like to know the current value of their home. And then have a look at the guarantee. This is a free local community service. Nobody will be asked to buy or sell any product, system or service, nor sign any agreement. Now, it enables them if they're interested in the value of their property, but these are the typical D-class prospects. They're not thinking of selling for another 3, 6, 9 or even 12 months, but it enables you to get the communication started with the D-class prospect. On page 23, a little more with the D-class vendors. Selling within 12 months. And there are some suggestions there when we talk about an obligation-free report. This is a variation of your pre-listing kit, and it includes details on the current market, recent sales, methods of selling, presentation tips, company history and services, etc. All set out for you on page 23. Straightforward, self-explanatory examples covering record price achieved and sold quickly via our database are on page 24. There's no need for me to go through something which is so clearly understood but so valuable on page 24. On page 25, price range specific. It's a bit like the home unit specialist or the salesperson who specialises in townhouses or two-storey dwellings. Here we have somebody who specialises in properties between a particular price range. Samples are provided so that you can target those particular prospective vendors. It gives them a reason to contact you as a specialist versus the generalist. And on page 26, an old faithful but a goodie. Hints for sellers. Very straightforward. Thinking of selling? Use our free checklist to help you obtain the very best price for your property. A sample is provided on page 26. So there are 16 sample prospecting activities. The key points to remember are that prospecting needs to be carried out 4 or 5 days a week, irrespective of the market. You can be doing it as letterbox drops, you can be doing it as direct mail pieces, you can be doing it as a telephone service. But the important thing is that you are doing it. At the start of this CD, I mentioned that page number 27, the implementation schedule, was the most important page of the entire booklet, and it's the most important aspect of this CD. I encourage you to take time to go through the 10 activities, and that's all we've been through. If we look at activity number 1, research where your appraisals come from, remembering that somebody is going to contact everyone for whom you've conducted an appraisal. They're going to do that via telephone within 24 hours. It's probably going to be a third party, maybe just somebody's husband or wife who will work a couple of hours a week, a couple of nights a week, ringing people to find out why they asked you to conduct an appraisal. So when you look at that activity, you might say, well, we've got an activity already which does that much better, so it's not relevant. Or you might say, well, look, I'd like to do that, but I'm very, very busy at the moment, so let's get that in within 3 months, and I'm going to appoint the sales manager or the customer service manager, or I'm going to bring in our business coach or our consultant to do that. But you run through the 10 activities, aim to have those that you wish to introduce implemented within 12 months. This concludes Part A of this CD, Best Practice Prospecting. Part B deals with Best Practice Listing, and we're going to go into it straight away. Best Practice Listing. It's an undisputed fact that the most important person in any residential sales team is the person who can bring in listings, exclusive listings, on a regular basis from motivated vendors. During the course of Part B of this CD, I'm going to be referring to the Best Practice product, PL89, Best Practice Listing. To get the most from this CD, you must have a copy of the workbook in front of you. Visit bestpractice.com.au, go to our products inventory and order your copy. Remember, they're free for subscribers. On page number 1 of the workbook, we list the table of contents. This is a ready reckoner for you to refer to in the days and weeks ahead. It also lists the tracks which correspond to each of the activities that we'll be going through. Before we start, please turn to page 16, the most important page in this particular workbook, the implementation schedule. It details the 11 activities we're going to go through so that at the conclusion of the presentation, you can take some time to work out what's relevant to your agency, when you want to introduce it, and the person who will be responsible for introducing that activity. If we go back to page number 2 and the first activity, monitoring performance. One of the questions most often asked of me when I'm speaking to residential salespeople is, how do we get more listings? The answer is always the same. Know why you're getting listings at the moment. On page number 2, there's a sample script for a third party to use after every exclusive agency has been signed by your business. Somebody will telephone that person, that new vendor, within 24 hours and ask them what caused them to select your agency as their exclusive selling agent. If you know why you're getting business at the moment, you can do more of that. You can incorporate it into your pre-listing kit, you can incorporate it into your listing training, into your listing presentation, and you will get more listings because you're repeating those successful activities that are working for you right now. Keys to success here are to use the telephone, call within 24 hours, and use a third party. They're being paid typically throughout Australia and New Zealand at the moment between $20 and $23 an hour to carry out this valuable research for you. On page number 3, when you've got the results, print them. It's not a secret. Make sure everyone on the sales team knows clearly why you're getting listings today, and then change those activities to reflect your results. Second activity, why choose you? Every person in your sales department must know how to answer this question. Not as a parrot, but in their own ways. They need to be able to answer anybody who says, I'm thinking of selling, why do you think I should use you? The most important things on page number 4 are listed in the bottom left-hand corner under 5 suggestions. To answer this question, engage an outside facilitator to brainstorm your sales team and your customer service manager, if you have one, on 2 questions. Why should a prospective seller choose your agency, and what are our points of difference? When you've got the results of that, produce a 10-point list similar to the example on page 4. Provide ongoing role-play training, utilising your 10 points of difference, and include them in your pre-listing kit and listing presentation documentation. And you might like to include a page on why you should consider using your agency on your website. But ensure that everybody in your sales team knows how to tell in their own words why somebody should use your firm as their exclusive selling agent. Research conducted over the last 12 months revealed one remarkable piece of information. The overwhelming majority, and I'm talking just over 80%, of Australasian residential sales teams, when a member of the sales team goes out to do a listing presentation, she or he generally does a presentation which varies every time it's conducted, and within the team, each person is doing their own presentation. One major point of difference between top 10% and the rest is that in a best practice agency, there is a structure to doing the listing presentation. Certainly, there are opportunities to vary that presentation based on the needs and the changing needs of the prospect during that visit to their home to conduct the presentation, but there's a structure. A best practice presentation has 6 steps. They're listed on pages 5 and 6 of your workbook. I don't intend to go through each of the steps in detail, but just to provide an overview. The first step is to ask questions. Well-meaning, well-inducted sales agents are excited about your agency. They're excited about your listing presentation documentation, and they're keen to present the prospect. Far too many, the majority, when they get into the lounge room and start talking, do just that. They talk with excitement, and at the end of that, the prospect will say, "Gee, thanks for that. That was really good. We'll get back to you." That's not the answer you want. You want to be able to get through the presentation so that you come away with a signed agency agreement and start to move towards marketing activities. So the first of the 6 steps is to ask questions. So you walk in and ask them what they want or what their feelings are. What do you intend doing when you sell here? Or which features of your home do you think would appeal most to prospective purchasers? Or what has been your experience in selling a home before? So have those questions prepared. Each consultant will have their own questions in their own words. They'll be printed and they'll be on the wall of their workstation, and they'll be practiced as they're going to do their presentation. Step number 2 is listen. The key message here, and it is a key message, is successful listeners hear not just what the prospect says, but what they mean. So you'll ask a question, they'll give a response, and what do they mean by that response? Now there's some samples in Schedule B. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you said that if you sell here, you intend moving to a smaller home near your son. What would stop you from selling here? Or, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you mentioned earlier that the last time you sold, your agent auctioned the property and that you weren't happy. Please tell me what you weren't happy with. So step number 1, ask questions. Step number 2, listen. Often, an inexperienced salesperson will return to the office and the sales manager will say, "How did it go?" The salesperson will say, "Really good. They complimented me on my enthusiasm and the presentation and the materials I left. But did you get a signed agency agreement?" "Well, they said they'd get back to me, they'd ring me tomorrow." Now, that's not what you want from a presentation. The reason this person missed out was that they didn't involve the prospect. How do you involve them? Well, Schedule C on page number 6 gives examples. Let's just read one of them. "For me to be able to meet your specific needs, it is essential that while I am discussing the sales and marketing procedures, you interrupt me, make comments and ask questions as soon as they pop into your head. Please don't wait till I have finished." Okay, because what we're doing here is building a partnership. We're not trying to control the prospect. We're trying to work together towards listing the property for sale, marketing it, selling it, and continuing our partnership on into the future. So step number 3 is to involve them. Step number 4 is to provide 3 options. Top 10% experienced, long-term successful top 10% salespeople have mentioned to me time and time again to go in with just one list of services with one list of fees and costs attached is too hard. You really are going black and white, yes or no, red or black. What top 10% people are doing is giving the prospect 3 choices, 3 levels of service with 3 levels of fees. So they might have the value package, then they'll have the gold package, and then the platinum package, and they'll aim for 80% of their prospects to go with the gold, because Australians and New Zealanders don't like to be perceived, as a general rule, as being cheap or being expensive, so they like to go into the middle. So aim to have 80% go with the gold. But the important message here is don't make it too hard on yourself by only making one suggestion. Give yourself some room to move. Step number 5. Now, there are only 6 steps, and we are already at step number 5, and it is only here that we start to discuss the services which you provide. The biggest mistake most people make is they go straight to step number 5 without going through steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. Inexperienced agents try to control the prospect. Best practice agents know that taking charge is the opposite of what they want to achieve. They want a vendor-agent partnership. Always remember, however, that prior to discussing your services, preface that discussion with words such as, Provided it suits you, I would now like to discuss the specific services we provide in marketing your home for sale. Please ask questions and make comments as they occur to you. It's a partnership. You're not controlling them. The final step is the close, the skill most often missing from the unsuccessful agent's armoury is the ability to close. The reason that so many salespeople are poor at closing is that they've built it up in their own minds as this great chasm between providing a discussion on the services and then getting the agency agreement signed. If you start to think about the closing section as no more and no less than keeping the partnership momentum moving, it becomes easy. Again, you're going to have bridging questions such as, while I am completing this paperwork, could you please tell me whether Saturday or Sunday is best for you for an open home? Or, as I fill in this paperwork, will you tell me when is the best time to call back with our marketing schedule for your approval? So get rid of the control, create the partnership, and create the momentum moving forward to bring about a close. More examples are listed on page number 7. The key message with the listing presentation is to have a written, structured listing presentation which all members of the sales team practice via role play, and hopefully using an independent training facilitator. Activity number 4, VIP open homes. Now, VIP open homes work well as a listing tool for many top 10% salespeople. How do they work? Well, during that part of discussing your services, step number 5 of the listing presentation, one of the services you will talk about is the VIP open home. And you're able to say something like, one of the great things we do here is we provide you with a VIP open home. We collect the names of all of the purchasers who are looking to purchase property, and we invite them to come to a special preview open home. It occurs before the first marketing activity. Now, the great thing for you as the seller is that if one of these qualified purchasers decides to proceed, hopefully we're going to save you both time and money. Time in that if they enter into an unconditional contract quickly, we're going to save advertising costs, and we're certainly going to save time, and that means a reduction in stress. The VIP open home works extremely well, and all of the particulars and samples are provided on page number 8. On page number 9, we look at activity number 5, the qualified purchasers printout. Have you ever done a presentation and had somebody at the conclusion say, we'd like to talk to another agency prior to making a decision? Now, at this time, the agent with the qualified purchasers printout will say something like, please give me 1 or 2 minutes to peruse our purchasers printout. And she or he will then take from their briefcase a printout of all of those buyers that they have listed. Certainly it's a confidential document and you need to be aware of privacy legislation, but you will be able to say words such as, here at our agency we maintain a register of all genuine qualified purchasers who are ready to proceed without delay. At the moment there are about 12 prospective purchasers registered whose needs match your home. Of those 12, there are 8 I consider to be red-hot prospects. If we can complete the paperwork now, I would like to ring these people and make firm appointments for them to inspect your beautiful home before I leave. Now, if at the end of the conclusion they've said they'd like to bring in another agency and you say, here we have people ready to inspect your property now, it may be that you've got to enter into an agency agreement for 3 days or a week or even 24 hours. But think about it. If you have genuine buyers, and you only do this when you have genuine buyers, if you have them and you can make appointments for them to come in within 24 hours, you are more likely to make a sale, and you certainly will get a signed agency agreement if you role play this particular listing tool. More examples and details are provided on page number 9. Activity number 6 is the service guarantee. Its full details, together with a sample of the service guarantee, are listed on page number 10. Have you ever completed a presentation and the prospect has said, "Thank you for your presentation, we were very impressed, but we would like a little time prior to appointing an exclusive agency"? Here, if you're using a service guarantee, now the service guarantee is a last resort listing tool. So you might say in this particular circumstance, we recognise how important it is to select the right agent. After all, you will be appointing us for 30, 60 or 90 days. That is why here at our agency, we have a written service guarantee. It states that at any time during the 30, 60, 90-day agency period, should you not be happy with our service, you only have to give us 48 hours to fix the problem. And that after that 48 hours, if you are still not happy, we will cancel the agency agreement irrespective of how long it has to run. You are backing up your service with a written guarantee. The results? Less than 1% of agency agreements which are signed with the service guarantee are terminated, because agents who are prepared to enter into a service guarantee provide the service, and if there has been a glitch, they'll fix it, and they'll fix it within 48 hours. On page number 11, we look at handling objections. Every agency has 2, 3, maximum 5 objections to listing with your firm, which come up time and time again. On page 11, I have listed 8 often provided objections by prospective vendors, but they're just samples, they're examples. The key to success here is listed on the bottom right-hand corner of page number 11. Develop your own list of objections. Develop your own scripts and dialogues to overcome those objections, and role play and rehearse your most common objections and responses. Remember that the whole point of this particular CD and the workbook is to enable you to get more listings, to improve your appraisal-to-list strike rate. To be able to do that, you've got to overcome the objections that come up time and time again in your marketplace. Activity number 8 deals with fee discounting. Now, fee discounting by opposing agencies is a problem, is not a problem, depending on area and time. If fee discounting is a problem with your competitors, it's essential that you role play and rehearse those scripts and dialogues that you use to overcome the cut price agents in your area. There are some examples provided on page number 12, together with 2 very important suggestions. Provide a copy of the page to all members of your sales team and start working on role-play fee negotiation scripts and dialogues using an external facilitator. On page 13, activity number 9, regular communication. Consultant. Would you like me to tell you the number 1 complaint home sellers in our area make regarding sales agents? Sure. They don't communicate with their clients. Local house sellers often feel they are not kept up to date with the progress in the marketing of their home. Consultant. Here at our agency, we set aside 60 minutes, 6 days a week. We give you a rest on Sunday to keep you up to date with recent sales, price variations, new listings, feedback, and other pertinent information so that you are always fully informed. Most clients prefer us to ring in the evening between 6 p.m, 8 p.m, whatever the time is. What time is most suitable to you? Now, in this particular example, you're isolating a known complaint made time and time again by vendors of sales agents. They don't communicate. So bring it up during your presentation and turn a possible negative into a positive by placing yourself above the rest. Over time, one of the great assets that experienced top 10% sales agents have is that they are regarded as the local expert in their area, and they list property because so many local residents just recognise that person as the local property expert. On page number 14, we provide 16 questions that are most commonly asked by property consumers of real estate agents. There are 7 suggestions on the bottom of page 14. Revise the 16 sample questions to suit your agency and marketplace. Appoint one person to research the answers. Have the questions and answers printed in the form of a fact sheet. Convene a meeting of your sales team and place being the expert on the agenda. Discuss each question and answer, ensuring each team member agrees and understands. Require each property consultant to learn the answers, and revise your questions and answers at least once every 6 months or as local circumstances dictate. If you want to be perceived as the local real estate expert, you've got to make sure you've got the answers for everyone in your team to the questions that are most commonly asked. On page number 15, we have activity number 11, lost listing follow-up. The first activity that we discussed was making sure that you knew why you got an exclusive agency. Almost as important is knowing why you didn't get an exclusive agency. On page number 15, there is a script which enables that third party to telephone within 24 hours of the listing being lost to find out why you didn't get the business. Now, I draw to your attention here question number 5. I understand you have appointed another agent to market your home. We wish you all the best on a successful sale. However, so that we may continue to improve our level of service, we would like to know, now there's a 2-part question here, an or question, the reason you chose not to appoint our firm or the reasons you appointed another agent. Experience is coming back to us very strongly that most people don't like to offend. So they would prefer to tell the person asking this question the reasons they appointed another agent rather than the reasons they didn't appoint your firm. So you might like to have a look at that or train the person who's conducting the research to be aware that they need to be able to move with a little bit of dexterity when they're completing this research project. This brings us to the implementation schedule on page 16. I mentioned earlier that this was the most important page. There are only 11 activities that we've been through. If we take one as an example, role play the best practice 6-step presentation. Now, we went through that in 2 pages. I didn't go through it in any detail whatsoever, remembering that top 10% sales departments have a way they do everything, the way we conduct open houses, the way we answer the telephone, the way we do prospecting, and the way we do a listing presentation. Now, you may have a variation of this theme, you might have something that's completely different, but getting the listing is critical, and you need to have the way we do a listing presentation in our office. So you go to activity number 3, role play, the best practice 6-step presentation, and you decide you want to do that within 1 month, and you want to bring in a consultant, a training facilitator to conduct role play. Week 1, we do step 1. Week 2, we do step 2. Week 3, we do step 3, etc., etc. That's the way it's worked. But to make sure that this document doesn't end up in the bottom left-hand drawer, within 24 hours of listening to this CD, go back and have a look at the implementation schedule, point number 12 on page 16. This concludes Best Practice Listing, Part B of this CD.